each one of you came. We're expecting some more people who we'll see as they come in. Just to yeah, feel free to get up and move around whenever you want. It's not like I care. Let's open up in a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to give a report for what you did through us this past January, and also to give a challenge for this coming January's trip. We thank you for each one who is here, for those who may still be coming, that you provide them with a safe trip here. And we pray, Father, that our time together be beneficial and fruitful for each one. In Jesus' name, amen. When I talk about a missions trip, my verse is always Acts 1:8, which is a verse that's embedded in my brain. And it's a verse that was, in my mind, a command given to each believer. This was not something just said to, some 500 people standing there that they had a special assignment. No, this is the particular assignment of every Christian, and that is to be a witness here in Jerusalem, in Judea and Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. And I always tell people, maybe you're never going to get to go to the uttermost parts of the earth. Now, you've gotten pretty uttermost already. You've gone out there. But most people say, well, I'm never going to get a chance to do that. And I understand that. I never expected to do that either, and never really wanted to do that. I was always in favor of going on a missions trip to Bermuda, because I thought that a beach ministry on Bermuda would be really a great thing for me. When India came up, I didn't think that would be such a great thing for me, and I'll say to you, it's not. But it is, I hope, a great thing for them. So this year was different than previous years because I've always gone alone. But Patty Sturzbecker, a woman in my church, kept saying, I'd like to go with you. And so it worked out this year that she could. And Maya came to me, I don't know, maybe 6 months before the trip and said, I'd like to go to India with you. And so, when a 17-year-old girl says she'd like to go to India with you, it's always good to say why. And I'm going to give you my own reasoning for what I think was in her mind at the time. I think, number one, she thought that this would be the greatest adventure of her life to date, and I believe it was. Number two, this was going to be her Gold Award project for the Girl Scouts, which requires a lot of effort, a lot of hours, and a worthy project. And it worked that way for her. Number three, I'm going to say that she thought that she could help. She didn't know what she could do, and I had to kind of assign her some things, but she thought that she could be of help in going. And, to some extent, that's the way Patty was, too. I would like to go. Patty said, I'd like to go. I like India. I really like to be in India. And I said, well, if you're going to go, you're going to work. And once I described to her some of the work that I wanted to do, I think there was a little bit of gulping because it stretched her out of her comfort zone, but she did really well, and so that was great. So what we're going to start with is about a 20-minute video that Maya put together for her Girl Scout Gold Award. And this gives you a good overview of our 2-week trip from her perspective. What I really like about it is that I'm in very few of the shots because I'm taking a lot of the video. I volunteered to do that. It's like, Maya, you go talk, I'll take the video. But because I hate the video that I get back from my trips to India are all me, and I know what I look like. I'd rather see everything else going on. So if you'll show the video.
snowflakes. Good morning, snowflakes. Good morning, snowflakes. Good morning, snowflakes. Good morning, snowflake. Good morning, snowflakes. So I'm going to India for 2 weeks with my project. It will be called The Snowball Effect, because it's not only affecting me, it's affecting you, it's affecting everyone around me. And then those people are going to tell the stories, or they're going to take the skills that I teach them and pass them on to more people, and pass them on to more people, and just creates this huge snowball effect. You get it? What's going on, snowflakes? Maya here. Today is January 12th, the day I leave. So we left Quakertown around 3 p.m. to head to JFK Airport. Traffic. Once we got to JFK, we checked our baggage and then went through security and then waited around for about an hour before we began to board the plane. It's cold. When we were flying, we flew over France and Italy, and there you can see the Alps. And then we also flew over Dubai, where we would land and have a 4-hour layover. But I just love the view from the plane. It was very pretty at nighttime. We have arrived at Dubai Airport, and we'll be waiting here for 4 hours. We have just boarded our last flight to India. And there you can see my first glimpse at Indian soil. You can see the little towns over there, and yeah. So once we arrived at the airport, we went through everything, and this was my first glimpse at like India. But as you can see, there are palm trees, and there's a fountain over there, and it seems a lot like America. Like, it doesn't seem like a third world country at all. You can see all the cars in the parking lot. The only thing difference is the side of the road that you drive on. But then we actually got into the city, and you can see more of a difference here, like all the 3-wheeled carts and the motorcycles, less cars, and 4 people on a motorcycle. Like, you would never see that in America. For dinner, we went to a restaurant and we got biryani, and then we came out at nighttime. I just thought it was gorgeous, and it was very loud, but yeah, I fell in love with it. So the next morning, we had breakfast before we began our day. We were going to 2 different slums in Hyderabad that day, and so on our way there, I got to see a goat on a motorcycle, which I thought would be the highlight of my day, but it turns out it was not.
Do you want to say hi to
when we got to the first slum, we were greeted by children just hanging around, and women out on the streets doing sand art for what they call the Harvest Festival, which was going on, I believe, the whole week we were there. They were also doing a lot of flying kites, which is also part of their festival. But the colors there were just gorgeous, and the camera does not do it justice whatsoever. They were so vibrant. It was just, oh, I loved it so much. So then the guy in the pink is, he was our driver. Saw him that week and the next week as well. But then over here, this is the area where we had our first meeting. There you can see me with what I like to call a magic book. Just a book where you move the screen that I just pulled down, and when you move it across the page, it makes the pictures move.
God loves you too.
After that meeting, we went to a shopping area where I got to pick out 3 different shirts and a skirt that I absolutely love, and another dress, although I didn't get my sari until the next week. And then the woman next to me, she was like my helper, I guess, and she came with me and helped me try on everything and that kind of stuff. So after shopping, we headed towards the second slum of the day, completely different area. And there I did the same thing as before with the magic book.
నేను ఆనందంతో గంతులుతున్నాను ఎందుకంటే నా కోసం ఒకరు నన్ను ప్రేమించారు కాబట్టి ఆనందంతో గంతులేస్తున్నాను.
John Moses translated for me, of course. And then a woman came up with her newborn baby afterwards and asked Pop-Up to name her. And he named her Mary. And then after that, I got to hold her. And that, I have to say, is probably the highlight of my trip. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. So the next day we were in a small neighborhood, well I wouldn't say small, but in this neighborhood where you can see like the small one floor houses, and then right next to it are these apartments. It's really crazy. I absolutely loved it there. I got to sit with the children at the pastor's conference, and the girl next to me, her name is Benish Navi, and she spoke the most English out of all the kids, and so she would help translate for me, and we became very good friends. At the pastor's conference, I did my wordless book in front of all the pastors, and it's basically just 5 different colors, different meanings. And then I went and I did that again with all the women upstairs and some of the children, where I was able to go through and hand out different resources, go through it more in depth. Because like at the pastor's conference, I only have like 5 or 10 minutes to go through everything, whereas up here it was half an hour to an hour by myself just with these women, where I could go through everything more in depth, go through with the Bible, point out different Bible verses that went with the lesson, and help answer the questions and stuff like that.
Final page is the green page.
Yeah, so there's 5 different colors, like I said, and the cloth that you see in my hands has all the 5 colors. I just turned inside out and then I chose it, which is a very good visual. We had smaller ones that we later handed out to the women and children so that they can go and teach it to other people.
So you ask them, what?
And then we also brought along life books, which are smaller books that go through the Gospel of John, I believe. And it has different questions and answers and stuff like that, that we also gave out for them to take along, that they could hand out to their friends or read to their children, stuff like that.
People and their comments and questions that they have.
The next 2 days were spent at the same building doing the pastor's conference, where again each day we would go through the wordless book, just to help teach it and get it ingrained in their memories. And then the 3rd day, we moved locations to my dismay because I couldn't see my friend that day. But so we moved locations. It was on top of a roof with most of it was covered, but it's still hot as you can see the fans going. And then the next day, we headed to Rajahmundry. As you can see, getting on the plane. I was very upset to leave. But once I got there, I fell in love with Rajahmundry even more than I did with Hyderabad. I don't know if it was just like the smaller town, or I don't know what it was, but there you can see the open market that was going on that day. And so we went a little bit later after we got settled, and we walked around there for a little bit. But the colors are so vibrant. I loved it there.
Right. And after we enter into the room, after a few minutes, we can go to take lunch for you.
Okay.
That is very.
So I believe later in the day we went shopping in Rajahmundry and not in Nadadaville, which is where we just were. But now we're in the actual city of Rajahmundry, and we went to go get mine and Patty's sari made. So that was Saturday. So then the next day is Sunday, and so we went to the lepers colony and went to their church. I played my flute, and I also did the wordless book with them and taught that to them. We had these bookmarks that we then handed out that had all 5 colors on them that then they could use and put in their Bible or books or take them wherever. And just continue it. Later that day we went to another church, and I got to sit down with the teen girls and we talked for a little bit, as much as we could. And then Pop-Up made a friend with this little boy. He had a drum off.
అలా ఇజ్రాయెల్ గారు అదే 10th హౌస్ కాదు అదే సామాన్య మార్చేవాడి దగ్గర ఉన్నారంట చేయమంటున్నాడు సార్ ఇజ్రాయెల్
The next morning, I had French toast and eggs for breakfast, my favorite breakfast of the week. And then at John Moses' house, we had our Bible Institute. And you can see everyone checking in there. Or a pastor's conference. I think it might have been the pastor's conference. But yeah. So I found this little nook right on the stairwell there that I love to sit because I had a nice view of everyone, and then I wasn't in the way of anything. And then, you know, it's just my little area where I could go and chill. Nice breeze. It was lovely. That is our blind piano man who would play the piano upside down or backwards, whatever it is. Because that's the way he learned, and so he has lots of different songs that he's made himself. And then later, Patty and I took a walk out to behind John Moses' house to see the rice fields. And nice view. Just get out. It's very pretty there. I liked it there a lot.
If he wants it to be done by 3, he can get the stuff done in time.
Yeah.
Because he said he only had to do 2 topics so often.
So later that evening, we went to an orphanage where I taught my children's lessons to the orphans, and I think they enjoyed it a lot. We went to 3 different orphanages while we were there. But Patty was able to help hold up different pictures and help with the lessons, and then I think she continued the lessons as well once we left. I know she did a lot of work at the orphanages the following 2 weeks that she was there. And John Moses helped translate everything for me and make it easier for the kids to understand. Because certain things just don't correlate in their life.
When God creates, he doesn't need anything.
And there you can see our driver from the previous week, the guy in the pink. Yeah, he works at the orphanage.
Our verse today talks about what God made.
So there you can see the chickens and the little chicks that were at the Bible Institute. And I got to hold some of them later in the week. But, yeah. And this is one of the other orphanages. We were able to buy colored pencils and hand those out. And then little keychains that had the 5 colors of the wordless book. So they could put that on their backpacks. That is a school that I went to go visit. It's very interesting. There's a lot of kids. You can see them all there waving to me. But yeah, it was cool. Our car broke down later, but you know, whatever. Now we're on our way to the tribal area and the Bible college. And for once, there was terrain. I loved it there, but I was kind of sick of the flat land, to be honest. I just wanted some sort of mountain or hill or something, and so I finally got it that last day. We were going into the mountains, to the village itself. It's gorgeous views. So there I am at the Bible college, teaching the wordless book to them. We handed out those materials there as well. And now we're at the village, and they're gonna throw their flowers like we do the rice. But yeah, their village was absolutely beautiful. So then at this village, we dedicated the well. That we're going to also start raising more money after a pop-up trip, I believe, to dig another well in a different village. There you can see him. So yeah.
Oh, praise the Lord.
That's about it.
This trip was different for me because, like I say, every other time I went alone. And there's some good things about that, and there's some bad things about that I found out, because this was really neat to have others with me. I got to know Patty in a closer way than I ever did before, because the three of us stuffed in the back seat of a little car, we got to know each other very, very well. Except I never really saw Maya, because she always had her head pointed out the window of the car, watching what we were driving by and videotaping it. So I really only ever got to see the back of her head most of those times. But it was nice having some other people with me. But they weren't there as tourists, because you notice the very first day we were there, we go into the slum area. And when we pulled up and we walked into that little hut area, I looked at Patty and Maya and I said, okay, it's all yours. And I took the camera and I walked to the back, because that's why they were there. They were there to teach. They were there to share themselves with the people in a way that I couldn't do. And, that added a totally different perspective to the whole trip. As I said, I know I stretched Patty beyond where she thought she could go, because I think in the beginning you felt a little bit uncomfortable, but as time went on, you really found out that you could do all of this. And she'll talk to you about her 2 extra weeks there and what she did there. But she was a big help, not just with Maya as she was doing some of her sharing, but also giving her testimony at the various places that we were at. And in some case, it's just a matter of being with these people and showing them that you want to be with them, and just showing, just friendliness and common respect. So the group experience was really good. I know that they had a great time because they were with me, but right? Oh, good. Right answer. We won't ask her. Why don't you take a little bit of time, and I want you to talk about what in particular you did, because on the video you're talking pretty quick, but I want you to say exactly what were you doing there? What did you do?
Okay, so the main thing throughout the week was the wordless book, which was the cloth that you guys saw me like flipping inside out and like explaining stuff. So there's like 5 different colors, and each of the colors correlates to a different way, a different part of becoming saved. And so you can, like the gold is you talk about heaven, and then the black you talk about sin, and goes on and on. So I did that, and then we handed out these little mini ones that also turned inside out, that then they could go out and share it with other people. And then we also had the bookmarks that you saw in the lepers colony that also had the 5 colors, and keychains for the kids that they could put on their backpacks that they could also tell others about. So it's all this like big snowball effect, hence the name of my project. That is like my favorite part of the project is my title. It was like, yeah. And then we also had the little life books that I handed out with the women and also at the Bible college. And we had these little mini cards that we handed out, which were from the Gideons, different, it's an app on your phone, and it has the Bible in their language, so they can have it at their home. What else did I do? And then we had the magic book, which was a like picture book pretty much, but it had this little piece of paper that you would slide across really slowly and make the pictures turn. Science. And so we gave some of those to the college, and then we also had the Sunday school material, which I got to use at the orphanages, and Patty helped me with that a little bit, just talking to the orphans, giving them stories, that kind of stuff, which we have more material.
At the moment, better than 40 pounds.
More than 40 pounds, so we're going to take this year to give to them to distribute and use and stuff like that in the future. Did I do anything else?
You ate a lot of French fries.
Yeah, the fries were good. The French toast was good, and they had these noodles that were really good too. Yeah.
What I appreciate about Maya on the trip, and first of all, I got to know her better, which was great. Not many grandparents get an opportunity to do something like that with a grandchild. Now I have a whole bunch more coming, and we'll see whether some of you have been to India, some of you have been to countries that are totally different. It is not always pleasant, but in 2 weeks, I never heard her complain. And that makes a trip really wonderful. When somebody is so excited about what they're seeing and doing that you never hear a word of complaint. The only thing that was discouraging for you for the whole trip was that your technology didn't work.
Yeah, that was a problem. I brought a laptop along, and like, not even halfway through, it ran out of storage. So it was like, I had to cut down how much video I could take, and then I couldn't upload any more video to edit the video to put out. And then putting out video took hours because of connection and all that stuff. So that was just a mess.
Why don't you stroll down the middle so they can see that sari?
Is there any significance to the sari?
It looks pretty.
Why? Did you get to wear it there?
I did. Well, sort of. I not really. Like I can't actually wear it there because it's not necessarily culturally acceptable. But so Patty and I went out one day to ride skates. I have, of course. Actually, so nice. Really pretty.
It's not culturally acceptable because
Then we don't just run into a country and be like, hey, this is cute. You know,
Okay.
it's like more their cultural thing because it's more like, yeah.
you know, Charlie, I think when you're in a setting like that, you want to make sure that you're not dressed or doing anything that's culturally opposed to them. But I think if you go too far, maybe it looks like you're pandering. And so we tried to strike a balance there. But both of them wanted saris. I'm glad that I didn't go on that shopping trip. The other shopping trip for the clothing was just as exciting as any shopping trip here, where I sit there while they are looking at every item in the store. Patty did not miss one item in that store. And then she tried some on, and then she'd put them aside and say, well, maybe. But she got there. Yeah. Plus, you go there and nothing's really out, and they just start heaping stuff on a counter. So there's this big pile, and they go, here. And so I just sat there and stayed out of the way, and because I didn't want to get involved, which was good. So Patty had been to India before on trips, and she is a lover of India itself, which I give her credit for. I am not a lover of India itself. I admit that. So she said, I want to go with you sometime. So it worked out great this time because with Maya going at 17, it was great to have an older woman with her that, you know, that made me feel much better in all different sorts of settings. But I would say that neither of you ever felt in any way in any sort of danger or discomfort there, other than the fact that flush toilets, hot running water showers are wonderful things when you don't have them. But it was good to have the two of them together because that gave me a little bit better sense of Maya being there, because if I'm speaking, I can't concentrate on where she is or what's going on. And that allowed her to go out and meet with the women and children and things like that. And so that worked really well. So when Maya and I flew back after 2 weeks, we actually left Patty there. And that was by design because we thought if we'd leave her there, she might never find her way home. But she did. The 2 weeks that she was there alone is what I'm excited about for her. Because you want to talk about being stretched. You were stretched. And as we would get comment from her, and John Moses would be sending me things, and it was obvious that she was doing a wonderful job with the kids who she was with, but it was also obvious to me that things were happening with her. So Patty, come talk about especially those 2 weeks, if you would. And see, here we're stretching her again, because you know she doesn't like doing this.
Okay, so the first week I was there, I stayed in the hotel where we were, and I had my room by myself, and John would come and pick me up for breakfast. Then I'd go back to the hotel, then he'd pick me up for lunch, go back to the hotel, and then we went out to villages, and I used the last year's Rock Zone books to teach, and then I would get some things at like the store, like little object lessons. Like we had one was about snakes, so I got little snakes and gave them out to kids and stuff like that. So it was, and then John would translate. So then I would do that like every evening. We were there maybe about an hour and stuff, and then the kids just like all gathered around from the area and little villages and stuff like that. And then at night, and then so that was basically my first week. And then the last week, I don't know why I didn't stay at the hotel. I don't know. I don't remember why I didn't stay at the hotel the last week, but he took me to Asha, the driver. If you remember the driver that was in the videos, he lives in this village. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, it was near where John's. It was about 45 minutes probably. So I stayed there with his brother and his mother and his grandfather. They lived in the house. And then the brother, I don't know how many years ago, he got hit by a drunk driver, and so he couldn't use his right arm. It was because they don't have the stuff there that we do, so it was numb, so he can't use it. So, and then his mother would make meals for me every morning in this little kitchen that they had, and she did her wash outside in a bucket and things like that. It was really, and her father. Then one day we would sit out on the porch during the day, and I would do work on my lessons for later in the day. While I was there, I did lessons too for the kids in that village. I just stayed there, and then John's father, John Babu, would come and translate the lessons. So during the day, we would sit out on the porch and just talk. And sometimes Nani, the one whose arm was hurt, would take me around and walk around. And there's a little school there that we walked in and see the kids and everything, and that was fun. So a couple of times he took me into there's a little stores and stuff down the road, so we walked down there, and then so what else? So then so every night I did the lessons there. So that was more of the rough part of it, because the one thing in India, and all the first hotel we were in had showers, so that was nice. But then the second hotel, it was nice looking, but you had to take a bucket bath, which was kind of, at first I was like, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to start it. And then they would bring us hot water every day, and we could mix it with cold water, and so you just take a bucket bath, you wash yourself and dump the water over your head, and that's how you showered. So in the next people's house, it was the same way. They had a little shower, but it looked a little dangerous. I saw some electric wires up there, and I thought, I don't think I'm going to take a shower. I'll just take a bucket bath. So then Elizabeth would heat up water for me every day, and I would get a bath. So yeah, so it was fun. So we would sit on the porch, and everybody would walk around and talk to each other. All the neighbors, they were all friendly with each other, and just shoot the breeze all day. And then her father made this little broom. One day we were sitting there, and he made a broom for to sweep and everything like that while he was sitting out there. So that was neat to see. But anyway, what else did we? So I wasn't sure how I was going to make it through that. I thought, well, this will be interesting, but like it was very, not rough, but very like basic. So I was sleeping they gave me their bed, and I was thinking, even in the hotel, I would feel like little bites on my leg, and I'm like, I don't know if there's bed bugs here, but I don't even want to know, so I didn't even look. I would rather not know if they were there or not. So I was like, sometimes the first couple nights I was like, I don't know if I couldn't fall asleep because I was so like, what if there's bugs around here? And so, but then eventually I was okay, I could sleep. And so it was interesting. I really liked it because it was around the people and everything like that. Got to meet with the people and do the lessons with the kids. And then coming home, I was praying too because of not knowing the language and stuff. So, and then John's car The one day we went, and it was just it was just stopping and wouldn't work right. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't want to take that to the airport. What if we get stuck? Because it wouldn't start sometimes, they have to keep starting it. And then finally it was starting. I'm like, I'm not going to the airport now. I don't want to get late. So I told him I want him to, how about if we rent another car? So that's what we did. So we took a better car to the airport, and then there was a man there that helped me get onto the right. He was a passenger too, and we just kind of started talking, and he helped me get onto the right areas. And then when I went to the next stop, he was there too. So he said, "Okay, well, you go in here," and he helped me. Then I had like a long layover in Dubai, I guess it was, and I met this girl. It was like 9 hours, so they had these lounge chairs there that you could just sleep in. It was really nice. And so I had to go to the bathroom, but I didn't want to lose my chair because there weren't many others there. So then, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I guess I'm going to have to get up. Well, then this lady came and sat down that spoke English with her husband. And then somehow, I forget, we were talking about bathroom. I said, oh yeah, I got to go too. Oh, my husband will watch your chair. So it was just like how God kind of just worked things out and everything. And then this other girl came from Germany, and she spoke English. So we talked like a couple hours just sitting there waiting for the time to go past. So it was a good trip, because then everything worked out fine. When I got there, how it happened, my luggage wasn't there, and I thought, oh my gosh. So then, I couldn't find my luggage, and there's other people waiting too, so I figured, okay, it's not just mine. And then my phone was dead, so Dan was supposed to call me where he was at, and then my phone's dead, and I'm like, oh my word, how am I going to find out where he's at? It's a huge airport in New York, and I just started crying because this man came up to me. I said, I asked him something about a phone. He said, well, go out there. There's AT&T. Maybe they can help you. So then I went out, and here there was only one place to meet him, so I didn't have to worry. So he was out there. But I was that was stressful. So that was the end of the trip, and then he came and picked me up and went home.
Yeah, we weren't going to let you stay. But
Everything went fine until I was going home, and I wanted to get out of New York.
But a couple things that you might have heard her say there, and this is where God is wonderful. Whenever she was alone and she didn't know what to do, somebody came alongside her and said, how can I help you? And was there. That never happens to me in the airport, by the way. You know, well, it has. There was this one Islamic guy who was handing out some sort of candy, and I'm not quite sure what that was because we couldn't communicate. But you know, there was a case. You know, she was alone in a strange land. Now she knew the pastor, she knew some of these people, but to be alone in a strange land, living in an orphanage in a small village, how many of you would say, sign me up for that? And yet that was a great experience, wasn't it? You know, it turned out to be great because you got to actually experience village life in India the way most people would not.
The one at nights, I forgot, I took Uno and this game Pigs Out, and the kids would come over at night and hang out spend time. So I taught them how to play Uno. So then they really liked it. And every night they'd come and bring over their friends, and we'd sit and play Uno. So I left the cards in the game there for them because they liked it so much. And then Elizabeth, like they couldn't speak English, but they picked up the game. Mm-hmm. And then Elizabeth, who was, ran the house or was the head of the house, we played games too, and she couldn't speak English either. So it was just kind of different communicating with each other. But it was my favorite part, that part of the
And then
trip.
the third thing, you had to come up with lesson plans and teach lessons to orphan kids. How many orphans were in that particular house?
Well, they were from the village, but there was pretty many. They were all different ages. I would say that at least 30 kids were.
So that was a small one.
Yeah,
I mean, some of the orphanages
more,
that we go to there in a 6-room house, there will be 125 to 175 kids. It's wall-to-wall kids. But you had to prepare lessons because I didn't do that for you because I said you had to do it, and you had to teach it, and you were on your own doing that, and that stretched you in a good way.
Yeah, I did have the book. It wasn't like I made up my own
I know,
lessons,
but that stretched you in a good way, and that's the good feature about going on a missions trip is that it stretches you because you get into situations that you've never been in before, and you have to deal with them, and you do deal with them. That works, but why do we go? Now, I told you, I think when Maya said she wanted to go, that one of the reasons was a great adventure. Is that true? Yeah. And one reason was this would be a good Girl Scout Gold Award project, right? And then the other was, well, I can go and I can meet these kids and I can teach and things like that. And she got help from Child Evangelism Fellowship. They're the ones who actually gave her the materials and showed her how to use them so that she could go and train the trainers. Because what we do when we go to India is we go to teach so that they can teach. We're there to supply education and materials so that pastors, church leaders, teen leaders, whomever, then are able to take what we show them and then spread it to others. In a nation, well, in a state where we go, in India, that's what's most helpful because there are churches, there are pastors, but what they don't have is training. What they don't have is materials. Now, I said we have about 40 pounds of Sunday school material right now that I'm not sure how we're going to get there. But when I say to them, I'm bringing Bible handbooks, I'm bringing commentaries, I'm bringing Sunday school materials, that's all you hear about. Oh, please bring that. We need that so desperately because they have none of that. And so those materials are vital to get into their hands. But at the same time, you have to show them how to use the materials. And so that was the focus of what Maya did. Patty, again, showing how to teach kids and teaching kids. Because wherever we went, kids especially would just flock around us. I always thought it was because Maya was the first and the palest teenage American girl that they ever saw. You know, and so I knew that she would really gather attention. But you know, they come because it's like, who are these people and what do they have? And when you can give them something that's lasting, it's just great. I mean, it just, you are so blessed by what you can do. There is a huge need there for good Bible training, and I will use the word good Bible training because most of the pastors' conferences that I hold, one of the purposes of them is to refute some of the bad teaching that's there. Each year as I look at a topic, it's like, all right, what do I have to negate that they've already heard because it's not biblical? But they need Bible training, they need materials. We have the ability to help. And so that's why we should be there. Now, as I was thinking about this, the other thing that is on my mind these days is that the door to India is closing. I don't know when that door is going to be closed to us, but it is closing. There's a pastor from this area who will not be going back to India this year because in every likelihood he will be arrested when he would land at Hyderabad. I don't have that fear. I don't have enough of a public persona there that I have to worry about that. But they are getting more and more strict about pastors, missionaries, evangelists, Bible teachers coming in. They don't want it. Now, officially, freedom of religion, officially you can go in, but if you were to say, well, I want to come here and I want to spend 3 months doing missions, look out. You're probably not going to get your visa. So it is getting harder and harder. And so not only should we be doing it because we have the ability to do it, but now is the time to do it. It's not something that we can say, well, maybe 5 years from now. We have to keep doing this. How important is it? The second year I went, there were 3 pastors who came early, which in and of itself was a real feat, because Indians tell time by a solar clock. And I'm not sure that they even know what day it is. It's more like, well, this month, if we get there, we're on time. But these guys were early, and I said to them, so why are you here? And the one pastor spoke pretty good English, and he said, we were here last year, and we liked what you said and the materials that you gave us. And we went back to our churches and we spoke on those materials for weeks. And I said, okay, now I know why I'm here. If I can talk to a group of people and they take what I say and take my outlines and take those references and then go back and use those for weeks speaking to their people. You want to talk about a snowball effect? I did a rough calculation that if I speak to 600 pastors while I'm there and they use the materials the way that they say they use them, by the time they're done, it reaches 500,000 people. That is amazing to me because who am I? But that's what we have to offer. Now, I'm going again in January. Up until last week, Maya was going again in January, but the U.S. government has said, no, we want you to come to Texas and do your basic training. So she's not going to be able to go. Patty is interested and hoping to get permission to leave work to go. So we'll leave it at that for tonight. Okay. I was hoping that she was going to say, I talked to them today and I'm going. Each time you go, you meet people who you met before, and that's wonderful, but new opportunities, because we don't go back to the exact same places. Now, we will be going back to the lepers colony. We go there every year. How many Americans could say that they've ever even been to a lepers colony? We are in the orphanages, and we stay in the orphanages at times. Who in the world ever stayed in an Indian orphanage? I don't highly recommend it. It's not on most tour groups trips, but it's interesting to be around those kids, and there's always a couple of them that adopt you, we go to the slums. I don't know what Maya was expecting when I said we'd go to the slums, but it was pretty primitive. The second place that we were at, that little, quote, village in the city of Hyderabad exists on picking up rubbish on the street and then reselling it. That village's livelihood. Plastic bottles, rubbish. That's their livelihood. That's how poor they are. We get to go into those places where a lot of people never get. And we are really welcomed when we go in. We got a chance to speak in a Bible college. And again, last year I did the speaking. This year when we got there, I said, okay, guys, take over. Because she was able to show them, here's a way that you can work with kids with the wordless book and things like this. That's what we're there to do, is to train them. The opportunities are just unbelievable. The village where the well was, 4 years ago when I went into that village, they said that I was the first white man to ever enter that area. You want to talk about just an amazing thing to be able to do. I mean, they recognize me now because I'm still probably the only white man who's ever entered that village. And they probably say, oh, it must be January again. There's that tall white guy. But that was really neat to be able to dedicate that well. And one of our goals is to raise money to do a well in a village several kilometers down the road, because these villages have no water. They rely on a stream that 3 months of the year is dry, and the other 9 months of the year, I wouldn't drink out of that water, but that's the only water they have. So we're planning for a next trip. There's still room for someone else to come along if they'd like. That door is always open. And now that I've taken some people with me, I'd love to do it again, because that was really good. Come up here, Maya. We're going to field some questions. But to begin with, I have questions. So my question for Maya is, what thing about your trip surprised you the most? And needless to say, I didn't brief her on this before.
The showers weren't that bad.
Are you in bucket baths?
Yeah, they were pretty nice. They were warm. Yeah, way better than a gallon of water in a trailer. Yeah, that was bad.
That's because you're young and flexible enough that you can reach your toes. Patty, what was the best moment of your trip?
I guess just being there by myself and being able to do it. I don't know. I don't know what the best one. I like being in that village. That was my favorite part because it was, around the people and everything. It was fun. The girls would come out at night and come over at night and want to play games and stuff like that.
Yeah, you really got to be part of the village.
Yeah.
That was neat. See, I've stayed in the orphanages, but I've never had that opportunity because, once you're in the house and inside the gate, you're isolated. So
there's a funny story that
here, come over here.
when we went in the village one night. I forget it wasn't the week I was there, but before we went in that same village before, and then we went back to the hotel. I went back to the hotel, and there's two hotel guys, and the other one said something. Oh, something about this village, and I said, yeah, we were in a little. I thought he was asking me where I went. I said, yeah, we were in some little village. I don't remember the name of it. No, it's such and such a village. I said, yeah, it might be. I don't remember. And he said, no, he saw you there. And this village was like 45 minutes away, and he was there when I was there. And it was just weird. It was just funny because he's like, he saw you there. Well, he would recognize because I'm white, but I didn't know who he was. I don't remember him. So it was just funny that because it was so far away, it was just like.
Well, when we are there, we are noticed, and the word does go around.
He worked in the same hotel that we were staying in. That was strange, different. He was there, but he ended up working in the hotel where we were at.
Yeah.
So how awful was that?
Well, the one year I'm in Hyderabad walking in the airport terminal, and I hear this, Jim. Well, I didn't pay any attention. Then I heard it again. Then I heard it again. I looked, and here's a guy standing in one of the kiosk shops waving me over. And, how are you? I was in one of your meetings 10 days ago, and this is a city of 12 million people. And here I am walking down here, and, like I say, we get noticed. I hope for good. My question for myself is, what's the hardest part of the trip? And some of you could probably imagine what it is. It's trying to put a 6-foot-tall, 200-pound body into a plane seat for extended hours because they're about this wide and there is no leg room. But that's the price you have to pay to go do it. I think the worst part of the trip is actually the travel. Yeah. Being there is wonderful. It's the travel that's hard. But that's the price you pay in order to go do what you need to do. Mm-hmm. And actually, I had a real skinny seatmate, so I could infringe on hers. This year, I don't know. Questions for any of these?
One other thing that the Lord did on my way home, I was saying, oh, Lord, it'd be so nice if I could have a seat by myself so I could sleep. And then here, when I got on there was nobody beside me, so I stretched out.
Well, you didn't answer my prayers that way.
Why are so many people barefoot, even in the church? You were there.
I enjoyed it. I just like being barefoot.
Why were you barefoot?
Because I could be.
Inside. No.
Oh, you can't bring your shoes inside. It's like Japan. It's like one of those things. Yeah, shoes stay outside.
Yeah, the culture is that when you get to the door of a house or the door of the church, your shoes stay outside. So after the first year, I learned to wear sandals because otherwise you're trying to put shoes on and take them off, which is really tough. The only place where we keep our sandals on is in the leper colony. And that's by their desire. Wherever we go, they're looking out for our welfare, which is really nice. We don't have to be concerned because they're actually looking out for our best interests. But culturally, you don't wear shoes in the house, and quite frankly, most of them aren't wearing shoes outside anyway. So if it's that you take your shoes off because your shoes are dirty, but if you're not wearing shoes outside, you don't take your feet off when you go in. So I don't understand how that works.
It was funny though, because most of the time when we would go there, it would be like there would be a stairwell at like the front of the door to get into the thing, but we had like hundreds of people, so there would be piles of shoes, and you'd find some like down the stairs and some like over the side of the house. Like it was great.
You wonder how they find it.
I know it was a mess.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe each of you could address how you felt on your way home, or maybe even weeks after you get home, because my experience was that you were in the villages, you were in the orphanage, you worked with these people, you ate with these people, you made friends with them,
Mhm.
and then you were the American that was allowed and privileged to get on a plane
Mhm.
and leave that setting and come home to America. Did you have like some sort of survivor guilt at all?
No, I didn't want to leave. I was like
Yeah,
trying
and
to
when
figure out how
when she
not
did,
to come
she
back.
wanted to stick that baby in her suitcase.
Oh, yeah, that
That
too.
was the other thing we had to
Yeah.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
didn't want to come home at all. I was like ready to stick it out there.
But how did it change your attitude and some of your thoughts and concepts? Because that's what he's talking about. You were there in a different setting too. What changed?
They don't have anything very much, and then you like come back and like everyone just has a bunch of stuff, and it's like everyone like, especially like with our generation, like a lot of the kids today you don't see outside playing and all that kind of stuff. They're inside on their TV or computer or whatever, but there everyone was outside playing together and just running in the streets, and it just brought me back to my childhood. But yeah, it was much more like communications, and they had more like relationships with each other and stuff like that. So yeah.
So Patty, go ahead. You answer the question.
Well, I like India, but after a month I was starting to get tired, like homesick a little bit for my dog and my family. But I always hate leaving because you get so used to it. It's like that's like what you're used to for 4 weeks, and then you go home and it's different. It is the same. It's like you realize how much little you can live with or live on. And
Did you feel like you crashed?
because of the plane, I slept like a lot when I got home. Was that what you mean? Oh no, crash because of the emotionally. I don't know. I slept a lot, so maybe that's what. I slept a couple like hours because of the long ride and stuff like that. But yeah, it is hard to come home because you get so, like you said, you get attached and everything like that. And I always wanted to. I mean, I've been there 4 times, so I really enjoy it. So.
Unlike them, I do get somewhat bombarded with requests about, it would really be nice if I could come see you in the United States. And you learn day one that that's something that you are not capable of doing. And that was probably one of the best things about my first trip to India is I realized how helpless I was to really change things. I could have an impact on people through speaking, and I could have an impact on some people by getting to know them and befriending them. But when you see the magnitude of the social issues there and the poverty issues there, you realize that you as an individual, you can't do anything about it. You know, there's just nothing that you can do that really would make a huge impact on this. And so you look for small ways that you can. And that's personal relationships. That's supplying things that they need. Like this time I'll be taking over a computer, which I won't be bringing back because I don't need that computer, and they will put it to good use. As I say, I take over books, I take over materials. The materials that she had from CEF, boy, they loved them. You saw the picture of the kids we gave them colored pencils. That was better than Christmas Day, because Christmas Day for them might be a set of clothing that's probably used and maybe an orange, which an orange would be kind of pricey, but that's really it. So they're so grateful for so little, and then you realize how ungrateful we are for so much. That every time you go, you are humbled, and you realize that you as an American have no right to complain. We've been so blessed. We have no right to complain. And yet you see them and you realize that they are content in their setting. And you say, well, they don't know any better. Well, yeah, they do, because flat screen TVs are, there are two things that you see everywhere, including out in the smallest villages: flat screen TVs and the latest cell phones. I mean, I'd be embarrassed to show them mine. They'd think, where'd you get that? That must be new. Nobody has those. But they're aware of the world, but they don't need the world. And that's a very sobering thing for us. And especially when you're in a Christian setting there and you realize that these people are subject to persecution. Not that they're getting hammered every day, but they are subject to persecution. But they have learned, like Paul, to be content with what God gives them. And how often we're not content with what God gives us. So it's always sobering for me when I come back. I'm always ready to come back. 2 weeks, I'm ready. It's like, I know when I get home there's meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and corn waiting for me. I walk in the door, kiss the shower, hug the toilet, say hello to Linda, and then after I spend time in the shower, then I can actually give her a hug. Because after 44 hours in transit, which is what we were, right? I mean, you're not fit for human company. That's why we fly on Arab Airlines, because everyone on there is either Arab or Indian, and so we fit in, because you realize that deodorant is not needed in most cultures. That goat that she saw on the motor scooter, I thought at times that I'd have one in my lap on a flight, because that's just, here, would you hold my goat? Yeah, sure, I guess. But you realize how blessed we are and how little they have. And it starts getting to you, because you say, how spoiled am I? How spoiled am I? And like I say, I know some of you have been in those settings already, and I'm sure you feel the same way. And Paul, I'm sure for you, because you have so much in a health perspective to offer when you're abroad, that whenever you leave, it's like, but there's so much more I could have done, because there's so many more people, where because mine is set up for a 2-week schedule, and these are the groups I do have a sense of actually being finished that helps me in coming back, because I know I've accomplished what I set out to do that time. But even so, like this year, if I would go for a month, there are enough opportunities for me to speak, because there's always something, we'd like you to come for 3 days, or they'd like me to teach at the Bible college, and there's just not enough time to do all that. So I'd like to focus on training those people who can then go out and spread it from there. Somebody else? Yes, Patty.
I'm probably going to embarrass Maya.
Go ahead.
But to speak to what your question was, Maya obviously jumped at the chance to be able to go back. She was excited about the opportunity. But I got to be in the room with her when she was reviewing all of her video footage she put together, her video. And she had this look on her face. And I said, what's wrong? And her answer was, it's been so long since I looked at this. She said, I want to go back so bad. Like, she just, like, it was so touching that she just loved being there so much and loved being with these people. So, I wanted to share that.
Yeah, I know she wants to go back. And I like I said, I love her to go. It was, hey, if you have the opportunity to take a grandchild with you on something like this, jump at it. It was the best. It really was. And a lot of that I give her credit for because of her personality. Because I'm not the easiest guy to be around. Especially since I keep shocking her. I say, okay, Maya, go do this. What? Yeah. Yeah, just go do it. You can do it. And but that's what she was there for. go sit down. You can't sit in a sari, can you? You didn't learn how to do that yet. Yeah. I had to laugh because they had to come here to get dressed because they didn't know if they could drive a car in a sari or do anything like that. Did you?
I had, yeah.
Well, you're a bad enough driver, it wouldn't have made any difference. So if I pass out this sheet for who wants to sign up to go with me this year, it'll come back blank.
It's interesting when you go, and I've been there 4 times, but every time you go, it's like, oh my gosh, they're so poor, and everything's so run down, and you just it's kind of depressing when you see, like, when are you going to see buildings that are nice, and you never do, except some of them are on the inside, but just like, oh my gosh, how can they really, but then after you're there for a couple days, like, it's just normal, you don't even think about it,
Yeah.
and, so it just kind of, that goes away after a couple of days, you just get used to it.
Yeah, and like you said, after you've been there a couple of times, like for me to go back there now, it's easy because I know the whole routine. I mean, I know the airports. I probably still know some of the guards. Now, it also helps, by the way, those of you who travel abroad at all, it really helps to be an American traveling abroad because I've never had to go through customs at JFK coming back into the country, not once. I've never had to go through customs in India. And in fact, I don't even have to wait in line because you come up to the pile of people waiting and they look at you and go, American, and you go, yeah, and they just wave you through. And I've never had any real problems with the paperwork, even though I fill it out incorrectly because I just play dumb. And then after a while of grumbling, they stamp your passport and off you go. And then when you leave, they grumble again and you just stand there and then you leave again. So it's, when you're familiar with it, it's easier. I would have wanted you to go at your age alone naturally. But each time it's different. Each time something else hits you differently or something else happens. I never expected that they were going to stick a baby in my arms. And the translator wasn't close by. So here I am with this baby. And what am I going to do with this baby? Well, yeah. And then they said, well, you're supposed to, they said you're supposed to name the baby. And I said, well, what's the baby's name? And no, you're supposed to name the baby. I said, why? Well, that's an honor for the Bible man. I said, oh, okay. So is it a boy or a girl? I thought that was probably a really important thing. And then I'm kind of like, so this year I'm going to go with a boy and a girl name already implanted. So I'm ready just in case. Mary. Easy name to go in with her 13 or 14 other names that are going to be this long. Yeah. But, going to the village and seeing the well there and dedicating it, that was new. That was neat, and that was an honor for us to be able to do that. That was, yeah. There was a girl in the church who had a birthday, so we had, we were in her birthday party there because they just bring you right on in. So, even though for you it was all new, and for you it was different new, because you were in some different locations and settings than you've been before. And for me, even though it's always sort of the same, it's always new. And so that also helps to keep you going back. But the real key to it, and I tell this to them, when I start a pastor's conference, I say to them that people say to me, well, you must really love to go to India. And I look at them and I said, I hate India. There is nothing here that appeals to me because I really like my life at home. I mean, and when I say that, I see smiles because they know what's coming. I said, the reason I'm here is because I don't like India, but I love Indians. I'm not here because of the country. I'm here because of you. And I'm not here in order to see what the country is or experience that. I'm here to try and give you some help that you can use. And boy, does that ever resonate. Because that's what we're doing there. Each year they say, we could schedule an evangelistic rally. You could speak to 3,000 people in public. And I said, that's not what I do. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to teach, to leave materials, to try and help so that they can teach better. Now, one of the new things that's coming up, and one of the reasons that I say I'm not sure how much longer I'll be going to India, they are talking about gathering the materials together from my pastors' conferences and publishing them. And if that happens, then I have a public name in India. And that might mean that after that I cannot go back. So that's one of the things that we'll be talking about in January, about what to do, because relationship is everything. They can't just publish something without a name on it. It has to have a name in order to really have something. And I'm afraid that if we do that, that will end my going to India. Yeah. What would be a good one to use? Mary, yeah. Mary. Yeah, Mary did this. But we're going again. We're just not sure how many or who, but I already told them to schedule the meeting places. As last year, there is a hefty cost involved in what we do in India. And they already sent me a budget, and they said it'll be the same as last year, that we need to raise $8,000 for what we do in India. Now, we all paid our own flights and things like that because that's our, that we should do. But once again this year, we're going to ask you if you can contribute to help keep this going, because it is a snowball effect. When I go to a pastor's conference, and this will be my 8th year, I think, there are probably some men there who have been at every one of my conferences. And that's kind of neat, because if we scheduled a pastor's conference right here, and we let's say we publicized that through Bucks in Montgomery County. We spent a whole lot of money on publicity. Pastors, we have a one-day conference. Come. Mike, how many pastors would we have? Probably not many. But I know the one year, there were a group of men who traveled 10 hours in order to hear me speak. That again is humbling. But they said, you have something that we can use. And so that's the whole purpose in going. So, we're going to get some letters out in the next couple of weeks, again, outlining what we're going to do. And I would ask you, if you can, to again support this effort this year. I don't know how many more years we'll be doing it. I'm also looking for a younger guy who could take over from me, because it is getting harder. Unfortunately, younger guys have families and obligations, where us old guys, we have wives who say, you're going to be gone for 2 weeks? Oh, well, great. See you when you get back. So, hey, thanks for coming. Talk to these, hit them with your individual questions. Maya looks like she's trying to sneak out, but she's not. No, you stay in that for now until everybody says goodbye to you. Then you can go get changed. Let's close in prayer. Father, thank you for the calling that you've given to a place that we've never thought that we'd be called to or go to. A place that, quite frankly, before we went there, we had no desire to go. And yet you called us saying, I have a purpose for you. And how wonderful it is that you have a purpose for each one of us. You have a ministry for each one of us. Now, it might be right here in Quakertown. It might be 50 miles from here. But you have not called us to Christ for us to sit back and relax. You have called us to serve, and you call us to minister, and then you equip us to do it. You stretch us. You say it's not your power, it's my power. I will supply what you need. And we thank you for that, because we see evidence of that as we go. And so we commit this next trip to you. We pray for your leading and guiding. I pray especially as I work on my materials for the Holy Spirit to convey to me not just what it is that I should say, but how to appropriately say it, so that I'm not offending culturally, but that I am strong in biblical truth. Father, help me as I go to combat some of the errors that are being spoken publicly there. Help me to challenge those people to continue the good fight. And help us as a team as we gather materials to either carry or send there, that those materials far outlive our time and usefulness there. And so it just continues to bless as the years go by. We thank you for each one who came tonight. We thank you for their interest in this ministry and for their love for us. In Jesus' name, amen.